And Spears goes, you know what? Maybe at the end, I'll give you a chop. And I'm like, all right, sure. I can take a chop. It's fine. I said, I think it'd be more interesting if we had all your students line up and they all chopped me.
Yeah. What's up, Bengal fans? It's your host, Joey Karni. I want to thank you for clicking on this video. It was an amazing experience, and I can't wait for you to see the full interview. Now, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below your favorite part at the end of the video. Now enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, The Angle proudly presents the world's most talked about pro wrestling sensation. It's The Angle Podcast. How exciting!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Angle. I'm your host, Joey Karni, and today I have a very special guest. He's a four-time Emmy Award-winning TV host, interviewer, entrepreneur, everything in between, but most importantly, he's a wrestling fan. Chris Van Vliet, how are you, sir?
Joey, doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. Beautiful background that you have there.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. I like
Whoever designed that deserves a round of applause.
Thank you. So how is quarantine life treating you? I like to start off with that question because it's the most unnormal thing we've ever had in our lifetime, I would assume.
Oh, for sure. And I think the interesting thing about this is we're living through history right now. Like, this has never happened before. You know, I think we all cross our fingers that this will never happen again. But we're all in this together. So I think it's like, that's what makes this so unique, is that we're all in this together. We're all experiencing the same types of things, but maybe in a different way. So I'm getting by, you know, just like everybody else, trying to figure out how to do things. And my gym just opened up yesterday. So that was like the most exciting thing I've ever done.
Wow. No, it's been a while since I went to a gym. I have one in my house that I made, but
what are you waiting for?
I'm like lifting up like things of water and like, it's ridiculous. And what I found too is trying to buy products for a home gym everywhere is out of stock.
Of course. Yeah.
It's like a hot commodity right now. So
yeah,
using what I can at home.
So yesterday I counted, it had been 71 days since I'd been in the gym. 71 days. It felt so good. I actually went to the gym with Brian Pillman Jr. and same thing. He lives in the area here. So we went out together and it felt like this momentous occasion. Like, we sat in the parking lot and we're like, there it is.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay, let's do it.
It's crazy stuff. I'm here in New York, New Jersey area, but everything here is closed. I mean, we had the worst of the worst here.
For sure.
A few weeks ago, I went down to Florida because my sister lives there. She just graduated from UCF. Yeah. And
nice.
We went over there to see her, and everything over there is open.
Yeah.
Like, everything is open. And I actually ran into EC3 in Publix over there, which is hysterical.
Like, just randomly?
Just randomly. I'm walking down the aisle. I have a mask on my face, gloves, walking, and he just like walks by with his headphones and sunglasses. I'm like, what the heck?
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Well,
but
I think
everything's open.
I think what it comes down to is, you know, we've been in quarantine for 2.5 months or whatever. And I think people are just like, I got to go on with my life, you know, safely, but I got to go on with my life. And I think that the economy has to continue pushing forward as well, or else we're going to be many, many, many steps back. So, you know, I live in Cincinnati right now and things are starting to open. Like I said, my gym's open. I got a haircut last week, which, by the way, makes you feel like a human again. You're like, oh, like, look at this. It's the small things in life. And I think that, to answer your question and to circle back to that, that's, I think, what quarantine's been really interesting. It's made us realize what's important to us. And it makes us realize who's important to us, more importantly.
Awesome. I mean, I've been cutting my own hair for 2 months now, and it's not been easy.
There's some days.
Thanks, man. I mess it up, and I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm not going outside.
Nice job. Nice job.
Hours of YouTube.
You can learn anything on YouTube. Isn't it the best?
And TikTok. I got to give that too. Like, TikTok, I learned all these new recipes and things that I've never even thought about making before. I had a whole, we made a whole hibachi thing in my kitchen the other day. It was crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is what quarantine's doing for you. You've learned all these new skills.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I just signed up for Masterclass. You know the website Masterclass? Yeah. And I've been getting into acting. I've been taking acting lessons here. I was taking acting lessons before the quarantine happened. And I'm like, Samuel L. Jackson is offering acting lessons? I'm going to sign up for that. And you basically pay one flat rate and you're in. I'm like, well, now I could take acting lessons from Helen Mirren. She's also offering. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
I've seen a lot of those before. And I meant to sign up for one like 2 years ago. And then just like everything with life got in the way. And I just ended up forgetting about it. And I always want to go do it. I don't know why. You just remind me.
Now's the time, Joey. Now's the time.
Exactly. But based on interviews, how do you feel like, I mean, obviously we're doing virtual interviews now, but do you prefer virtual or do you prefer face-to-face? Has it really changed how you do things?
There's definitely pros and cons to both. I mean, with the world that we're living in right now and we're all affected by this, if you send a message to someone asking them to do an interview and they're like, no, sorry, man, I'm too busy. It's like, with what? What are you busy doing right now?
Yeah.
So I like that, this has definitely opened up the ability to do that many more interviews by literally just clicking a button like we're connecting right now. That makes it so much easier. But I still love that interaction that you have in person. I love being able to look at that person in the eye, shake their hand, feel their energy.
Yep. And
I think that if the interview can be just 1% better because you were in person with them, I'd rather do that. So I think that when things do get back to normal, I will certainly be still doing them like this, but I want to do as many in person, as I can.
Of course. I had never done a virtual interview until maybe beginning of March.
Me too.
And it was so strange because I felt like I'm talking to the computer. I feel like I'm recording a video, but getting a response. And I don't know, it was a little adjustment, but it wasn't as bad as what I thought it would be. It was actually pretty fun.
I mean, we're so fortunate that if we're going to have to be stuck in quarantine, at least it's in 2020 with all the technology that we have right now. Like this wouldn't have been possible even 10 years ago,
I had no idea where even like Zoom is one, Skype is one, and there's all these other ones. I was like, who do I ask? What do I do?
That's what I did. I literally put it out on Twitter. I said, hey, everyone, I'm thinking of doing these live stream interviews. Can someone give me some help? I
asked you at one point. I think I messaged you months ago and I asked you. It's crazy stuff, man. But you were saying you just moved from Florida. You're in Cincinnati now?
Yep. Yeah, and I'm on my way to Los Angeles. The plan was actually to move to Los Angeles in March, and I'm actually really grateful the way that this worked out. I was going to move on Monday, March 16th, had everything packed up, ready to go, and it was Friday, March 13th, when things really started to, kind of fall apart. So I'm really grateful that I didn't move out there. If it had been a week earlier, if it had been 5 days earlier, I would have been sitting out there going, what am I going to do? At least I'm here, with family and friends, and I'm in a much better situation now than if I had just moved out there and would be sitting in my apartment doing nothing.
Wow. Did having the apartment in LA, was there any issue hey, I can't come right now?
Yeah. So the original plan was a friend of mine was working on a Netflix travel show. It was going to work out. So it was serendipitous. And they were basically leaving their apartment empty for 6 months. And I was just having a random conversation with my friend. And I said, so if you're going to be gone on this Netflix show, what's going to happen to your apartment? And they go, it's going to sit empty unless, this is perfect. And I'm like, great.
It was working out perfectly for you.
Right. And then that's when it started kind of falling apart because they said, so our show is on hold right now. So I know you were going to move next week. I don't think you can anymore. Yeah. So that's how that fell apart.
That's crazy.
But there's much bigger and more important things going on in the world than I can't move or something.
Right. I'm slowly making my way over to the LA side. That's where I want to end up. I was in Florida for 15 years. Well, I lived in Jersey, moved to Florida for 15 years.
Okay. So now you're back home.
I'm back home, basically. All my family's here. Everybody's here.
Right.
But now I'm trying to get over to the West Coast, and it's just I was thinking about doing it this summer, and now it's now I got to wait for that. And
maybe next year now.
Not possible with this coronavirus. So it's everything's up in the air.
Yeah, I used to live in Vancouver. I used to host a TV show in Vancouver, and there's something really special about the West Coast, and there's something really special about the Pacific Ocean. And I'm really excited to be back there. But there's no rush now. There's literally no rush to do anything now.
And it puts things into perspective too. I for myself, things before this happened, I look now, I'm like, most of those things weren't even important. Like, things I was worrying about and things I was trying to do, and it changed my perspective with the podcast too. Like, it just really, really changed. So I'm thankful for that, but it's just crazy times, man. Crazy times.
It is, but I'm glad we're all in this together.
Exactly. That's the biggest benefit. I think we're all trying to, find some sort of solution and make it better and make it work, really.
That's what we're doing. And I'm hopeful that, things can get back to some sort of semblance of normal sometime soon.
Sometimes, and hopefully soon. But I do want to talk a little bit about your backstory, because I find it really interesting. I looked some stuff up about you, and I have a similar path. I would say I graduated with communications broadcasting degree. I actually graduated from FIU in Miami.
Yeah.
And my goal was to get into broadcasting and interviewing, and then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I really love wrestling. It's my passion. I've loved it since I was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
Let me just see if I can, start this. I had the skills of writing and broadcasting and all the other stuff that you really need to do this. I learned how to do the videos, and here we are now. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, congrats. Look, congrats on you finding a path and making a way, because I think that even if people have a similar story, everyone's path is different on how you got there. So, man, you're doing it. And I think this is the biggest thing. So many people talk about doing it, and so many people dream about doing it, and then never take just even that first step to actually making it happen.
Well, I think at one point that was me. And I was like, I want to do this. And I don't know, it just clicked one day. I was like, you know what? If not now, when?
Yeah.
That's
right.
And I try to tell people that now today, friends, people online, like, find a passion and just thrive on it. Find something, just do it. There's nothing stopping you from than you.
If you're interested in it, that means that there's hundreds, thousands, millions of other people
of course,
out there that are just as more interested in that.
Exactly. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I just went out a little bit. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
That's fine. But your backstory, you were doing Deco Drive, you were doing different things like that. How was it working with these celebrities, the people you watched, growing up on TV and now being face to face?
I mean, it's been a really cool and really surreal thing to be able to do this. And I've been so fortunate that I've been working in television since I graduated from college. But that was something that I really wanted to do. I made this like a goal of mine to not hate my job. That's where this began from. This began with an epiphany I had in my senior year of college. I was having the best time there. I lived with 4 of my best friends. We drank beer frequently and ate Hot Pockets. The best life. It's college, right?
Of course.
And I just had this epiphany one day. I woke up in my senior year and it hit me that at the end of this year, there was not going to be like, do I feel like going to class or not? Or where are we drinking tonight? It was going to be like, wake up, go to work for the next 40 to 50 years of your life. No questions asked.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment when I went, well, I think that I want to have a job that I at least enjoy going to. I don't want to hate Sundays because Monday's coming up the next day.
Exactly.
So that was it. And in that moment, I reached out to every TV station, every radio station in my college town and basically said, here's who I am. I'm passionate about broadcasting. Can I just come in and see how things are done in the real world?
Yep.
And one radio station said, sure, come be part of our street team. One TV station said, yeah, we hire volunteers all the time. It's a community-run station. Come on in. And I got to run cameras there and run audio and do real stuff. And then one radio station said, well, we don't take on volunteers. It's against our union. It's against our insurance policy. But how would you like a job? I'm like, okay.
Cool.
They said, it only pays $8 an hour. I'm like, well, that's $8 more than I thought I was going to make. And that's honestly how it began. So, those small jobs led to an internship, which led to me being on TV, which, led to some other jobs. And 2 years into my career, I was interviewing celebrities and reviewing video games on a show called 969 in Vancouver. And it's been an amazing ride to wake up and be pumped to go to work every single day.
I mean, I saw you swimming with an alligator, so
that was cool, man.
Some cool stuff.
That was one of my favorite stories I've ever done.
Wow. So from there, how did you break into the wrestling business? Obviously, you loved it as, growing up. How did you really decide that, all right, wrestling or the wrestling world, I really want to break into this?
Well, I always had a passion for wrestling. I remember like my early memories are in the late 80s, watching it at my grandfather's house or my grandparents' house, but my grandpa would just have it on. He wasn't a huge wrestling fan, but it would just be on. And I was on the high school wrestling team. And, when you're on the high school wrestling team, you're told, oh, you cannot like pro wrestling. That stuff's fake. What we do in here, this is real. But one of my best friends was a massive WWE fan.
Wow.
And, this is the late 90s. So you're talking on the phone all the time because, we didn't have what we're doing right now. And I knew that at 9:00 every Monday night, our phone call had to end because Raw was coming on. And one week I went, you know what, whatever, I'll just watch it with you. We'll stay on the phone. I'll just watch it with you. And I was hooked. I got sucked in immediately. It was Austin and McMahon and that whole feud. And I was in immediately. And I watched all the time. I watched everything. Raw, SmackDown. I watched ECW. I watched Sunday Night Heat, Jacked and Metal, everything. And I became part of a backyard wrestling federation. And I made it my dream and my goal that I was going to be a pro wrestler.
Wow.
And I was going to start to train to be a pro wrestler, which ended up happening. And to make a long story short, I was going to college for communication studies. And the summer between my second and third year, I decided this is it. I'm going to wrestling school. And I started training in Toronto. And when summer ended, I had to make a really difficult decision. Do I continue with wrestling school or do I continue with school? Because it was obvious that I couldn't balance both. It was an hour drive each way, $250 a month, which when you're in college is a lot of beer money.
Of course. Of course.
And I said to myself, I'm going to get a degree. Wrestling will always be there. And that's kind of how it started. So, I learned the ropes. Literally, I ran the ropes, took bumps. I was learning how to do it. And I just fell in love with the idea of it. And wow. It made me love wrestling that much more. So that's really where it all began, just from fandom, which has continued on now. I'm still just a huge wrestling fan.
Wow. And it led you all the way to the AEW. I mean, who can say that? It's crazy stuff. How was that experience being a part of that, especially at its beginning?
Yeah, it was, what an honor to be part of the first ever broadcast of Dynamite. The first time that there was another wrestling show on TNT in almost 20 years. That was really cool. And when they asked me, hey, would you be interested in joining us in DC on October 2nd? I'm like, oh, let me see. Let me check my calendar. I'm like, of course. No, yeah, please count me in. It sounds great.
Wow.
And to be part of that was such an honor. And just to be able to have the conversations that I've been able to have on my YouTube channel with these wrestlers it's been really, really cool. And I'm always so grateful for their time. But man, the amount of stories that I've heard through doing this has been just mind-blowing to me.
It's crazy. And it's crazy how everyone's story is completely different, but it's got one thing. It's like, we love pro wrestling. It's I don't know. And it's just everybody, I don't know. It's crazy how it all works.
But it's like that scene in Step Brothers where it's like, you like pro wrestling? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yeah. It's an awesome movie too.
Great movie. Love that movie.
Right. But growing up, there really weren't many options available to you. I grew up in the late 90s. There was really no options then besides WWE.
Yeah.
How do you feel today having so many options available and all those options being majority completely different?
Well, I don't know if there weren't, in the late 90s, there actually were quite a few options.
Well, WCW was there.
WCW, ECW was doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I always say that, now's the best time to be a pro wrestling fan, and subsequently it's the best time to be a pro wrestler as well. And sure, AEW, really changed the game last year, just by giving people another option. And I think it raised the bar for all the other companies to go, oh, if AEW is willing to pay people, then we're going to have to start to pay people too. And it's just the way that it is. I think it's the best time to be a wrestling fan because of this great thing called YouTube. You can watch literally any match that's ever existed in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
Just by typing a few words into your computer or your phone. So, and that's what I think is so great about it is you can find your own style that you like. You can find your own company that you like. It might be a company, your favorite wrestling company might be a company that's never been on TV. It might never be on TV. They might be an indie federation, close to where you live. And I think that that's what's so exciting about it.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, one of my favorite hours is watching NWA Power. And like, oh, where can I watch? I'm like, it's on YouTube. And they're like, on YouTube? I'm like, I'm telling you, if you like promos, if you like the development of characters, like, through communication, not just in the ring, that's the place to be. And they're like, wow. Because everybody's mind, they're thinking WWE.
Well, I think, look, NWA has completely changed the game in terms of making people realize that maybe you don't need a network TV deal to get noticed. And I love that they're now part of the conversation. It's WWE, it's AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact Wrestling, and NWA is in that conversation too. MLW, of course. But NWA is basically paving their own way. And they've only been doing shows for a handful of months.
Yeah.
What's our conversation about NWA going to be like 2 years, 3 years from now?
Yeah. It's just crazy stuff. Now, you've interviewed almost everybody. I tried to come up with a name that I didn't think you interviewed, and you interviewed them. So do you have any favorite moment that you can say from all of your years interviewing?
It's tough because it's like picking your favorite child, right?
And
I've been so fortunate to be able to share these really cool moments. But it's got to be The Rock. I mean, and not just because of who The Rock is, but what The Rock meant to me growing up. As a wrestling fan in the late 90s, The Rock was the guy. Yeah. And, I would walk around my high school raising the people's eyebrow and yelling, "It doesn't matter," whenever I'd ask a question of my friends. So when I first got to meet The Rock, like that was a really special moment. I've now been able to interview The Rock 9 times. Not that I'm counting or anything.
Yeah. But 9 times. No, it's crazy stuff. I grew up, I really loved watching the high-flying wrestlers.
Yeah, me too.
Benoit, RVD, Eddie Guerrero, Mysterio. Yeah. I don't know. I think as a kid, it was just more exciting than the heavyweights. And I used to I spoke to RVD like 2, 3 weeks ago.
That's great.
Interview. And growing up, me and my friends on the trampoline, we used to have competitions. Who could do the highest 5-star frog splash?
That's awesome.
Meeting him and talking to him, and he's just this normal, cool dude. It was just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, seeing them on TV growing up, and then you're talking to them, and they're just regular people.
RVD is like the most laid back person ever for obvious reasons. Of course.
What time is it now? I mean,
they always say, don't meet your heroes. And I say, if your hero happens to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you should 1000% meet your hero, because he will not only meet your expectations, but he will certainly exceed your expectations, because he's kind and he's generous and he's funny. And even though he's the biggest star in the world, he's aware of the fact that this moment that you're sharing with him is special for you. And he goes out of his way to make the moment special for you. And it's like, I don't know if I've really ever seen that. I've seen that with a handful of celebrities that I've interviewed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just know me for my wrestling interviews, but I've interviewed a lot of celebrities, and it's not a common trait.
Yeah. I have a crazy story about Dwayne Johnson. When I first moved to this is going to blow you away. When I first moved to Florida, I was 10 years old, and my dad was into bodybuilding. He was into working out, and his first thing when we moved there was, I got to find a gym. I got to find a gym here to sign up. So we were living in Weston, Florida.
Yeah, I know where Weston is.
Over in Sunrise, there was a gym he signed up for, and one day he came back home and he was like stunned, and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "The Rock works out at the gym that I'm at."
Wow.
I'm like, no way. And like, when you're 10 years old, you're not thinking like you're going to see The Rock out in the street. It's just not. And he kept seeing him. And my dad's trainer at the gym ended up being one of The Rock's trainers.
What?
And he had no idea. He walked into the gym one day
Wow.
and he was with him and he was like, wait, I know that guy. That guy's with The Rock. What the heck is going on here? So one day he's like, you want to come to the gym with me? And I'm like, why? Like, I'm 10 years old. Like, what am I going to do there?
Yeah.
Just come with me. Just come with me. So he took me and my mom. And as we're walking in, The Rock was on his way out. And my dad stopped him. And we started talking and told him how, like, he's one of my favorite wrestlers ever and all this stuff. And he took a gym brochure, took the back of it, wrote a thing like, to Joey, study hard, The Rock. I still have it framed today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Crazy. And he just sat there and was talking. And as we're talking, I'm like really, really shy. And my mom's like, he wants to be a pro wrestler. Just like belted it out. And she looks at him. He looks at my mom and just says, don't let him do it.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah. He's like, I love the business, but don't do it.
Well, that's so ironic that his daughter is now doing it.
Exactly.
Wow.
But even then, that was in 2003.
Yeah.
And seeing how humble he was then, before he really, became who he is today.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, it's a different kind of person.
What a great story. By the way, who lives in Weston now?
Who?
The Rock.
Wow. Oh, I knew he lived in that area. And then I saw he moved to Atlanta, but I know
think he has like 4 houses.
He has
I think
like 4 houses.
spends a lot of his time in Virginia right now, I think. But yeah, when you see him in that backyard, that really beautiful backyard, that's Weston.
I've seen his truck because I used to work at the gym that
that's cool.
I ended up working there 1 year after college, and he walked in and I was like, again? Crazy.
Well, now he doesn't go to the gym anymore. So
exactly. Now he's got
amazing
the Iron
stories
Paradise
that you tell, they're not possible anymore.
Exactly.
The Iron Paradise.
Yeah. I see videos of that and I'm like, how this doesn't even look real. That type of gym.
That's and I think what's so great about it is that's what he's built, Yeah. He built that from the ground up. He calls it $7 production for a reason. He had $7 in his pocket at one point.
Yeah.
And now he's turning it into this. It's pretty amazing.
Crazy. Just crazy stuff. But I do want to ask you one thing, and I'm sure you get this a lot. How did it feel to get those chops from Tyler Breeze and Shawn Spears? I got to ask.
Yeah, so,
it didn't look pretty.
It didn't tickle. It didn't tickle.
It's different watching it than actually asking. So I want to just ask.
Yeah, it's painful to talk about it now. It was my idea. So I got to put that out there. It was my idea to do this. I'd interviewed Shawn Spears right after he was released from WWE, after he made the appearance at Double or Nothing last year.
Yeah.
And I knew that he had started his wrestling school in Central Florida with Tyler Breeze. And I said, at some point, I want to come in there. I want to do like a segment, let people know that this school exists. And we just kind of kept in touch. And finally, I said, let's make it happen. Let's do this thing. So I went to the wrestling school. I did an interview with Spears. I did an interview with Breeze. And I said, I'm going to get in the ring and I'll take some bumps. I still remember a little bit. It's been a long time, but actually I went to wrestling school in 2003. So when you were meeting The Rock, I was, running the ropes, and Tracy Brooks, Angelina Love, they were at my wrestling school at that same time, actually. They were already trained, but they were there kind of getting the rust off or, whatever. So I said, look, I'll take some bumps. We'll lock it up. I'll run the ropes and, we'll let people know. Flatbackswrestlingschool.com. And Spears goes, you know what? Maybe at the end, I'll give you a chop. And I'm like, all right, sure. I can take a chop. It's fine. I said, I think it'd be more interesting if we had all your students line up and they all chopped me. Yeah. And he's like, ooh, you sure? I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll make a great video. Little did I know that at Flatbacks Wrestling School, every student gets 2 chops when they're learning chops. So 8 students plus Breeze plus Spears. Do the math real quick, and that's 20 chops.
Wow.
So my chest was red for 6-ish days.
I was going to say, how long did that take to heal?
I went back to the hotel that night, and I took my shirt off, and it was just like welts all over my chest. Like, and if you watch the video, not all those chops landed, very cleanly.
Yeah, I saw.
So,
And I was cringing the whole time. I was like, oh my God, that's
so I had some people like karate chopping my nipple and like, hitting me up here. So my chest was, for the first day, welts from like here, like on like my top, like almost my trap, down below my other nipple.
Wow.
And then as the welts started to go away, well, now the bruising kicked in. So for the next bunch of days after that, it was like just yellow and brown, like someone had like spilled like spaghetti sauce on me.
Gosh.
Yeah. And then actually the next day I was the ring announcer at a wrestling show, and I put on my button-up shirt for the tuxedo I was wearing, and it hurt so much to put that thing on.
You have the buttons touching. Oh my God.
It was just like
a really bad sunburn, but with like everything else and everything that could possibly hurt you is there. I don't know.
That was the other thing. So this was, in Central Florida, very close to Disney World where the wrestling school is. And Shawn goes, all right, you're going to want to put some aloe on this when you leave. And I'm like, aloe? Like this is a sunburn?
Yeah.
And of course, the gift shop had aloe because, all the tourists were staying there for Disney World. So I went and bought a big thing of aloe and rubbed it all over my chest.
Wow. Ouch. I do want to ask you though, do you have one person, celebrity, wrestler, whoever, that is like your dream interview? If you could just pick one.
Oh, for sure. Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon.
And I'm going to put that out into the world because I don't know if it's possible, but I also feel like if I keep throwing this out into the universe, it's going to somehow come back to me. So Vince McMahon, and not just because of what he's created in the wrestling world, but he's just a brilliant businessman.
Yeah.
And look, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, Joey, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon and, what he created. I mean, his dad kind of laid the foundation, but then he took it up about 100 notches and turned it into what it is now. So I'd love to have a conversation with him as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
and just kind of see like what drives him, even at his age, he's still working out every day, still gets up early every day, still goes to the office every day, or, or wherever the office happens to be. Yeah. And I just think that type of drive is so fascinating to me. And
especially at his age too.
Yeah. I would love to be in half of the shape that he's in when I'm his age, So I think that I just love to have a conversation about what drives him.
I saw in the Undertaker's documentary on the WWE Network.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of Vince's, real life side.
Yeah.
And you have Taker waiting in the office, and he comes in all, jacked, and he's, I just finished working out. Sorry for making you wait. Like that seems like such a cool guy. I don't know. Yeah.
So that's definitely number one, which, who knows? It may never happen, but I'll just keep putting it out there and keep hoping that it will.
I am going to tell you this though. It does, that manifestation stuff does work, because when I first started doing my podcast last year, I said, there's like a few people that I really want to interview. I named 4. You were on that list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was because I felt like we just had such a similar path. Like, we're not in the ring, we're outside of the ring.
Yeah.
We had the passion for it, both in Florida at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just a crazy, even when you were talking about how you grew up wrestling, it was identical. I was doing stuff with friends in the backyard and watching with my dad and my grandfather. And it crazy how that worked out like that.
Well, I'm glad we were able to make this work. Who were the other people on your list?
I had you, RVD, The Rock, and Cena.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, look, they're not impossible to get.
No. Someday.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Of course it's going to happen. And I think it's not just about putting it out into the world and hoping it's going to happen. You can't just sit here and go, I want to drive a Ferrari.
Of course.
You got to work for it. You got to put in the work. You got to be willing to put in the work.
All that
that's
stuff
why I
don't see,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You got to do the hard stuff in private so that, when you finally do it in public, it looks easy. And that's why I always say vague goals get vague results, because it's so important to know where you're heading. If you were to get in your car this afternoon and just drive around aimlessly, where would you end up? Well, you wouldn't end up anywhere because you had no goal in mind. You had no destination in mind. And the same thing applies to life.
Yeah. I try to tell people around me too, you can have a huge goal that's okay. Because a lot of people think, oh, this huge goal is not going to happen. It's never this, that, the other thing. Set that large goal, but set like smaller goals in between that will ultimately get you there.
Yes. And I think it's so important to
look at me like,
celebrate those.
oh, like think of that. Like,
I think it's so important to celebrate those little wins along the way.
yeah.
And I get it. Like, I understand that if you're sitting here right now, listening to this, watching this going, I want to start a podcast one day. It's like, well, man, to start that podcast, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Well, instead of, looking at that final goal of going, I want to have this podcast, go, all right, I got the name, check that off. All right, I bought the mic, check that off. All these things, and just check them off along the way. And you can, at the end of it, look back and go, look at all the things I've accomplished here.
When I first started doing the podcast, I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing. I bought a mic, I bought, some equipment, sat down, started talking. And the first 30 seconds, I was like, stop. And I heard it back. I'm like, no, I got to work on all of that stuff. It's much harder than what I thought it was going to be. But,
I was thinking, you know who should be on your guest list?
Who?
Kurt Angle on the Angle.
You know what? When I first started tweeting on my Angle account, that's the first tweet I ever got was, you have to have Kurt Angle on there.
You do?
Yeah. I tried reaching out. Going to keep reaching out. That'd be awesome to have him on.
He's
there.
back with WWE now. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah. That's going to be awesome. Now, I do have a question I put out on Twitter that I was going to be interviewing you, and I had some people write some questions. And one really interesting one that I saw, someone asked, if you were to get back in the ring today as an in-ring talent, where would you see your style fitting in? Which company do you really see yourself fitting in?
Well, look, me getting back into the ring is really just me getting in the ring.
Yeah.
And I think that people have seen the videos of me taking bumps or, taking the chops and thinking that I'm a, trained wrestler. And I just need to put it out there that I am certainly not a fully trained wrestler. So number one, it would have to be going to wrestling school with some very talented people and very talented coaches who could help me out.
Of course.
Which I think would then lead to me figuring out what my style is. I'm not the biggest guy. So I think that it would have to be something that would have to match my style and my stature. I've been fortunate being able to work in broadcasting my whole career that I'm not terrible when it comes to talking. So I think that could work its way into it, and I think that some of the best wrestlers out there are actually just the best characters, or maybe they're the best on the mic.
Yeah.
So I would hope that I could make that work for me, but this is all 1000% fantasy booking because I just turned 37 last week, and I totally firmly believe that age is just a number, but
of course.
I think that it's more mental for me now. Like I did a lot of things when I was a backyard wrestler or when I was in wrestling school that I didn't think twice about. And now if like someone were to pick me up for, I don't know, even just a vertical suplex, I might be like, don't drop me on my head.
I think like that too. And I'm 27. I remember jumping on the trampoline, and now my cousins have a trampoline. I go on there. I'm like, I'm going to be a little more cautious than normal.
Yeah. And I don't really fear a lot of things in my life. Like you mentioned swimming with the alligators earlier. I had this really cool TV segment on the station that I worked for where I was swimming with alligators and hang gliding and all this like crazy fun stuff. And my boss was like, well, what are you scared to do? And I'm like, not really anything. Like I'm willing to do anything. But the idea of like, we did a mountain biking segment, and I fell off my mountain bike, like off like a ledge, and I fell on my head.
Wow.
And I had like a second where I'm like, am I paralyzed? Am I paralyzed? Am I okay? And then I'm like, I'm all right. And took my helmet off. I'm like, am I bleeding? To my cameraman. He's like, yeah, you're bleeding. I'm like, okay, we should probably stop rolling. And it's in those moments when I'm like, maybe I am, it's just scared of like getting really, really hurt.
Of course. Now, the last topic I do want to talk about, fishing. I know you love fishing.
Yeah.
Where do you go? You did it in Miami for a while when you were there?
Yeah. So Lake Okeechobee was about an hour away from where I lived. So that was, Lake Okeechobee, for anyone who's a bass fisherman knows that's widely considered as the best bass fishing lake in the world. So to be about an hour away from that was amazing. But fishing something it's been a passion of mine since I was 4 years old. I've been fishing my entire life. I fished in bass fishing tournaments growing up. I would actually fish in pro bass fishing tournaments on the amateur side of things. So like the best of the best fishermen would be in this same tournament. Like, and if you're into fishing, it was the equivalent of like playing in a golf tournament where Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson were there. Like I was in the same fishing tournaments with Kevin Van Dam and Mike Iaconelli and Brandon Polinick, and I'll name all these other people that you have no idea who I'm talking about, but like the best of the best. So fishing's always been a huge passion of mine, especially bass fishing. And 4 years ago, my fishing partner and I started a bass fishing brand called Woo Tungsten. That's how you have to pronounce it. Woo Tungsten. We sell tungsten fishing. We actually have some here. So there's our tungsten fishing weights there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you ever are in a store and you see Woo Tungsten, know that this is the company that we created.
Wow. I've been fishing. I'm pretty sure like my entire life. I remember I used to go with my dad. Must have been like 5 or 6.
Nice.
Even in Florida, we used to drive up to the Keys and go deep sea fishing all the time.
Yeah.
Just something that I did my entire life. And when I read that about you, I was like, no way. Like that's something I just didn't know. Like it's crazy.
Well, and bass fishing, just like what we were talking about with wrestling, is when you find out someone does this, it's like you are instantly my best friend. Here's a great quick story about that. I had a bass boat. I had a Skeeter, and I had moved into the house that I bought in Florida. And I'd been living there for like 2 days, and I got a random knock on the door. And it's my neighbor from like a couple houses over. And he goes, I couldn't help but notice that you had a Skeeter bass boat in your driveway. Well, my name's Jim, and I have a Ranger bass boat. And I'm like, well, we are going to be best friends, sir. Right. And it's exactly like that. Yeah. And I grew up in the Toronto area, and there were so many incredible places to fish there. Bass fishing is not something you can do all year round there, but it was trout and steelhead and salmon and walleye. And I'm just going to list every freshwater fish at this point, and muskie and pike and perch. But bass was the thing that really sucked me in. That's my favorite, smallmouth bass, my favorite fish to fish for.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, that's something I didn't know about you. And I'm like, that is so unique. And it's so different from all the other stuff that you do. That I don't know. I had to point that out. It was really cool.
No, and I appreciate you pointing that out. But I think that this goes back to what we were saying, that if you have a crazy passion or a crazy interest, go all the way with it, because there's other people out there that are just as crazy about it as you are.
Yep, it's crazy. I think that's the biggest thing too. Now, being in quarantine, people being stuck in their houses, they need to find stuff to do. You know, I think it was during the 30s, during the 30s or 20s or 30s, that's when basketball was created, because there was just, you couldn't do anything. Just horrible times. And I think now with this happening, some other great things are going to come from it too, despite all the bad that's happened. But
there's no question. And I think that I'm hopeful that the worst is over and that we can start to recover and push forward, and that there might be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel right now.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to know that we're going through this right now. We're all going through this, not just in the US, not just in North America, but worldwide. We are all experiencing this. And I think that that's what brings us together, is that we're all experiencing this.
Yeah. I was reading before we started this interview, I think the fighting commission of the UFC, they just signed on to, they just approved to start the UFC fights this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, that's great.
In Las Vegas. Yeah.
That's incredible. Good. Because they were going to do Fight Island, which I thought was a really cool idea.
I thought that was awesome. Yeah, I was reading Dana White's like, he's pumped up, he's hyped, and he's ready to get back to it. So that's a good sign, at least for us wrestling fans too.
I appreciate that, even though things have kind of come to a standstill, that wrestling has been the constant. Because wrestling's been the constant for us wrestling fans our entire life anyway.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that wrestling has been the constant. So while the whole world has come to a screeching halt, wrestling's just kind of gone in slow motion during this. And it's this nice reminder every Monday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, that normal life does exist out there still.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff. And especially now with no sports whatsoever besides wrestling, I think a lot of eyes now are on the sport, and I don't know, I see a bright future for it.
Although I will say I'm surprised that the ratings are down.
That's shocking to me too. And I think it's just because it's not what people are used to be honest.
But we are literally a captive audience. 2 months ago, 3 months ago, if it was Monday night at 8:00, you could have been anywhere, right? Now you're maybe you're at work, but I would say the majority of people are at home. And I think you're right. They turn it on, and while it is normal, it's also this reminder that it's not quite normal yet.
Especially I saw on this Monday, they put the hockey, the plexiglass around the ring on Raw. Just different stuff. We're not used to it.
Yeah. So look, I'm hopeful that there is light at the end of the tunnel right now. And I hope that we can just keep pushing forward towards that. And that light keeps getting brighter and brighter.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, man, for taking the time to do this. It really means a lot. Like I said, you were on that short list that I had of people I wanted to talk to. So this has really been a pleasure. And thank you. I hope you stay safe, and hopefully you can get that move out to LA soon.
Well, thank you, man. And congrats to you on everything with the podcast. And I appreciate you reaching out and having me on the show. And yeah, this is great to just chop it up. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. I really do appreciate it. And we'll stay in touch.
Sounds good, man. Be well.
Thanks, man. Stay safe.